Good evening students, welcome for today's lecture. In today's lecture we will learn various economic curves. So economic curves are part of your economic syllabus which are important from the point of view of prelims, mains as well as interview because these curves give some conceptual understanding about various problems which are existing in the society. For example, unequal distribution of wealth, how the unemployment and inflation is related, how the tax revenue and tax rate are related. So these are some basic concepts and their relation with various factors can be studied by learning these curves. First is Lorentz curve. So Lorentz curve was given by Max Lorentz. So Max Lorentz was a PhD student and he submitted this in the form of his PhD thesis. So he was not some big economist that time when he gave this idea of Lorentz curve, but later on this was well accepted by very famous economists across the world, and even later on the Gini coefficient was developed from the Lorentz curve. So what Lorentz did is he took cumulative percentage of population on x-axis and cumulative percentage of income on y-axis and he compared. So if I take cumulative share of population and cumulative share of income on y-axis, so this diagonal which is at 45 degrees will be showing a perfect equality. For example, if I want to distribute 100 rupees among 100 people, so one person will get 1 rupee if 100 rupees are equally distributed among 100 people. So its graph will be in this way, right? So according to all the facts which he has studied, he observed that there is no equality, but there is definitely one observable pattern that most of the countries have this income inequality curve, because from the data, when we are comparing, there is a curve which is bowing down from the perpendicular towards the bottom, and as this distance increases, the income inequality increases. Means as this distance from this diagonal is increasing, this line of equality, it was called line of equality. As it is increasing and bowing down towards x-axis, it means what? The income inequality is increasing. So most of the countries has this type of pattern. Okay, so it is practically not possible for governments to have equal distribution of income. Then if we want to do equal distribution of income, then we have to go into some other political theories also based on that. But here what we are learning, the basic concept that how income is distributed in percentage of population. So if certain chunk of population is controlling maximum wealth, then it is creating what? Income inequality. So here also we can see that the maximum amount of income is controlled by lesser share of population. For example, here if 100 rupees are carried by one person and other 99 people are not having anything, then it will create a complete parallel line to this y-axis, right? So this is how the Lorentz curve was put forth by Max Lorentz. And based on these observations, what government can do? Government can form the policies to reduce the income inequality. Okay, so in 1912, because Lorentz curve was given in 1905, then after that Corrado Gini, who was an Italian statistician, so he used Lorentz curve to create an index which can exactly measure the income inequality among the countries. So he created a range from 0 to 1 in which the income inequality was measured. So Gini created it from 0 to 1. So what he said that if the Gini coefficient of a country is towards 0, it means it is moving towards equality, and if it is towards 1, it means the country is moving towards inequality. But as I said that it is practically not possible for the governments to create exact equality in the country, income inequality in the country, it is not possible to create exact equality in any country. So what is the healthy measure of income inequality? So he said if income inequality goes beyond 0.04, then it is an alarming state. But if it is lesser than 0.04, then it is okay. Means the country can move towards 0 and it can make more progress. Okay. So Oxfam report of inequality, you might have heard about it in the newspaper. So recently when it was published, so it has given some insights based on Gini coefficient that in 2011-12, India's inequality ratio, Gini coefficient, was around 28.8. Okay, but now as per recent facts, India's inequality ratio is 25.5. So only 3 countries are ahead of India, that is Slovakia, Slovenia and Belarus. Even the Iceland has 26.6 ratio. Okay, then you can see here Zimbabwe is having 50.3 and South Africa is having 63.0. It is now here you can see the alarming state that it is going beyond 0.4. Okay. Now from this you can relate it to the economic survey data. You can see what is the per capita income in terms of dollar, in terms of rupees, and what exactly the GDP of country, and is it really justiciable that chunk of population is having maximum wealth and rest of the population is having very less amount of daily income. Yeah, we can use this data to form the policies. For example, we can provide the services, we can provide the universal basic income, we can provide other social services, for example, education, healthcare sectors related services, or the policies related to the taxation. For example, if whether country should have a progressive taxation or regressive taxation, that is all can be decided by seeing these facts. Now the next curve, Kuznets curve. Okay, so as I said, it was an era of the industrialization where the society saw initially society saw the economy was primarily dependent on primary industries, agricultural societies was there, and then slowly the technological advancement came, then industrialization came, then there were factors which led to the migration into the urban areas due to establishment of the factories. So due to which what happened, entire social structure was gradually changing. Okay, and so these economists just observed these facts and created these hypotheses. So Kuznets said that during the development of the economy, initially there is less income inequality. Okay, but as economic development reaches its peak, as the country is developing economically, it leads to the income inequality gradually. Okay, then at a certain point when the overall ecosystem economics of the country it becomes stable, then government starts reducing the income inequality. So what is said initially market forces will increase the income inequality and then gradually decrease the economic inequality. This will create inverted U-shaped curve. Okay, as you can see here on x-axis, economic development is there. On the y-axis, income inequality is there. So initially, when the society was depending on primary industries, when society was primarily agrarian, at that time there was not much urban-rural migration, or there was not much the lifestyle was also simple, so income inequality was also lower. But as economic development happened, what happened? The urbanization rate increased, there was increase in wages, then there was people started living certain lifestyle, people started earning more money, then the gap between rich and poor become more and more. But eventually when government started having more money, more funds, then government started investing into the basic facilities such as education, infrastructural development, hospital development of the hospitals, healthcare services. Then government started investing into the technological researches, advancements. So due to which what happened, that income inequality, people started having more opportunities, even the poor people, because initially when there was more income inequality, then poor people were not having good opportunities. But since the government gave them helping hand, then people started having more opportunities for the growth. And then gradually what happened, that income inequality started decreasing. So you can see here by this phase here, economic development, no doubt there is more economic development here as compared to this phase, but still there is a lesser economic inequality here. Okay, so what are the factors which are affecting this curve? Urbanization rate, technological change, political institutions. Obviously political institutions play very important role in decision making, and the access to education. For, as I said, that one poor person can't make technological advancements unless and until he has access to the knowledge. Okay, so access to the knowledge can lead to upliftment from poverty to the better economic possibilities. Okay, what Kuznets said that about the inverted shape curve, they said that such curve prominently was not observed in East Asian countries. East Asian countries such as Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and Singapore, because these countries since the beginning they invested in social services such as hospital, healthcare services, access to education, infrastructure. They did not wait for the economic development to reach at its peak, due to which what happened, there was no such observable U-shaped curve. So the income inequality did not reach to its top. Okay, so you can see here East Asian pattern, that there was not such a prominent U-shaped curve, whereas in the Western pattern, US, UK, Germany, you can see that there is a prominent inverted U-shaped curve is observable. Then there is one more curve, and Kuznets curve, environmental Kuznets curve is also there. So what is stated in the environmental Kuznets curve is, initially when the economic development happens, the environmental destruction is not up to that extent, or it is normal. But as economic development happens, here suppose economic development and environmental destruction. So initially there will be a stable phase, then up to certain point there will be peak economic destruction. But once countries become developed, once they have funds, then they will start investing in restoration of environment and environmental destruction will gradually stop. So this is what environmental Kuznets curve states. We do have examples. For example, we have done Paris Agreement. We have pollutants which have been certain pollutants, for example, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, then carbon dioxide. Such pollutants are gradually decreasing. Okay. Then next is Phillips curve. Now again, Phillips curve is really interesting and important also, because what Phillips said that if there is inflation, it means that there is less unemployment. Why so? Because if maximum people have employment, then what will happen? They will have more income. If they have more income, then they will have more purchasing power. There will be more demand in the market. And if there is more demand in the market, it means what? The prices will rise and hence the inflation will rise. So this was his logic that if unemployment rate increases, then what will happen? Inflation will decrease. If inflation increases, then unemployment will decrease. Does it mean inflation is good? So, according to him, if we increase inflation, it means what? Unemployment is less. So, should we, if inflation is more, so is it always good or bad? So, it is not like that. Inflation should always be in a certain range so that it is healthy for the economy. For example, Indian government has a criteria that India should maintain its inflation between plus or minus 4%. Okay, it means 4 to 6. This range should be there for the inflation, because if you have lesser inflation, there won't be stimulus in the economy for the development. Means people won't have money for the investment. Okay, and if inflation goes beyond 6%, then it will be destructive for the economy in overall, because if prices are too high, then people can't meet their basic necessities and gradually what will happen? They will go in poverty. Okay, and if the inflation is so much lesser, then also people won't have motive, or else there won't be not much investment. Okay, so that's why this Phillips curve is really important. Yes, you can see here that low unemployment leads to high demand, leads to firm raised prices, leads to inflation. Okay, then high unemployment leads to weak demand, prices stable or fall, and it will lead to lesser inflation. Okay, then again, post 2008 crisis, government added some amount in the market so that it will give stimulus to the economy. At that time also inflation was very high. So this is how time and again government has to give the stimulus to the economy whenever such situations occur that economy is not growing, economy has become stagnant, that becomes a dangerous situation. So these are more and more deeper concepts, but here we are just doing the phase introduction of various curves. As I have said that we can use these curves in our mains answers also. Okay, then next is Laffer curve. So Laffer curve states relation between tax revenue and tax rate. For example, if government does not have money with it, so should government always increase the tax, and how much tax exactly should be increased? For example, if government raises tax to 70%, will people have any motive to work? Because they will think that okay, my 70% income is going in the in paying taxes to the government. So let's live simple life. Let's don't work. Let's live very, primary life. So this is how it will work. So what will happen? People will refrain from paying taxes to the government. So suppose government increase the taxes to 10%, 20%, 30%, and then beyond that, government reaches to one maximum point. Beyond that, the tax collection will gradually decrease. Okay, so this is what stated by Laffer curve. So all these four curves are very, very important from exam point of view. I hope you have understood all the concepts, and when you will learn other concepts in the economics syllabus, so you can gradually interlink with the current affairs also. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.